Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Stars daily sports podcast. It's Friday, January 13th, and I'm Blair Kirchhoff. Something's got to give over the next few days in the Big 12. 3 teams enter the weekend at 4-0 in league play, and there'll be a collision of those teams starting Saturday when Kansas plays host to Iowa State. Kansas State, the other undefeated team in league play, takes on KU on Tuesday. On today's show, the beat writers, Kellis Robinett, Gary Bedore, and Shreyas Laddha talk Big 12 hoops and the fast starts by their teams. K-State guard Markquis Nowell is playing like he wants to be Big 12 Player of the Year, and Kansas came back from 10 down with about 5 minutes to play against Oklahoma earlier this week. We cover those topics and much more on today's show. Let's get rolling. We are 2 weeks, right, into Big 12 basketball season. I just wanted to ask you guys, just to start off with, and anybody can jump in, any surprises yet? There are undefeated teams at the top, some winless teams at the bottom. Does anything stand out? Anything unusual? We're going to get into K-State in a big way here, of course, but maybe outside of Kansas State start, what has opened your eyes about Big 12 play so far? Kellis, I'll start with you, man.
Well, it seems like every single game comes down to the final, 2 possessions. That's probably what surprises me more than anything. Unless you're a team going 2 Ames, you are in it until the end. I guess that kind of surprises me too. Usually, Allen Fieldhouse is where teams go to die in this league. This season, it's Hilton Coliseum. They got the magic going. Texas Tech couldn't even stay on the same court with them. Neither could Baylor when they went and played there. So it's interesting that you got 2 winless teams at the bottom, Texas Tech and West Virginia. I mean, people are still saying they got a shot at the NCAA tournament. I kind of beginning to doubt that, but I mean, shoot, 0-4. Those are 2 pretty good teams to be winless. It shows how good the rest of the league is.
Yeah, 0-4 Texas Tech, had a, jump ball type of officials call, or would have beaten KU, and that's how good they are. And West Virginia, everybody knows how difficult it is to go in there, but Kansas goes in and beats them pretty handily. And so I am a little surprised that West Virginia is 0-4, but it's been a lot of favorable hub for the Big 12. Anytime you hear a national talk show host or ESPN, they're pumping up the Big 12, and deservedly so. Shreyas, this is your first go around in the league. I love that you're getting to see some of these gyms. I swear, when places like Bramlage and Hilton Coliseum and Allen Fieldhouse, of course, are filled, the atmosphere is as good as it gets in college basketball. And of course, you'll get to see Bramlage next week when KU goes to Kansas State. But what about you? You covered college basketball for a couple of years now in different parts of the country. Any early observations of Big 12 hoops?
I mean, it's just crazy to watch. I mean, I thought the Big East plays this physical, crazy brand of basketball, but Big 12 is right up there, I think, if not better. And honestly, it's one of those leagues where I have no idea who's going to win every night. And I think, Kansas has come out on top, a lot of close games here, but you could easily point to they could be 1-3 in conference play right now. I think the only win they've had decisively has been the West Virginia win when they went into Morgantown and kind of dominated there. But I mean, they come out, played pretty bad basketball against Oklahoma for 35 minutes. They lock in and they win the game. And I'm sitting there that's a good testament to Kansas, but also tells you this league is Oklahoma wasn't supposed to even give Kansas really the line. It was, I think, 9.5. It wasn't supposed to be that close, but any team can give each other fits. And like Kellis said, I mean, it's just fun to watch and fun to cover because you really don't know what's going to happen going into the game.
Gary, you've been doing this as long as anybody. Is it too early to make projections about who's good, who's bad, and who will or won't be in the tournament? Or are we ready to eliminate Texas Tech and West Virginia from the NCAA and to put K-State and Iowa State in the top 4 of the bracket? Or do we need to wait a little longer?
Well, the teams that are doing poorly have got to turn it around before too long, because you can't look at TCU 2-2, look at Baylor 1-3, and Baylor was picked to win the league again. Like everybody said, the games are all close. But if this starts flipping with the close results, then we're going to see KU, K-State, and Iowa State dropping some games soon. And we're going to see TCU, Baylor, OSU maybe. And will the winless Mountaineers start winning a little bit? So it's really strange, because if the close games start to turn around a bit, because the league is so strong and everybody's so equal, everybody's record is going to start getting bad. I mean, Baylor's 11-5, Oklahoma 10-6, TCU is still great at 13-3. Texas, with a new coach, hasn't slipped. They're 3-1 in the league. So in answer to your question, I do expect some losses to start coming for KU, K-State, and Iowa State. When, I don't know, because KU plays K-State Tuesday. Iowa State plays KU Saturday, so some losses are coming there. But I still think Texas's talent may prevail. We'll see. And of course, KU seems to know how to win these close games, but other teams are learning how to win them.
Yeah, for sure. Look, yeah, I'm with you. I don't know if KU goes 2-0 in its next two. That would be quite an accomplishment if it does. But Kansas State,
You can give them the trophy if they go 2-0 this week, I think.
I think that's right. That they if they sweep the Cyclones and the Wildcats, then maybe we have to rethink the Big 12 race a little bit. So, but Kansas State 15-1 overall, 4-0 in the conference, and quite a jump in the AP poll from what were in receiving votes the previous week. Kellis, how many places did they jump?
Yeah, so unofficially they went from number 30 to 11, which by my math is a 19-spot jump. It's the longest in something like 3 decades since they've been tracking that stuff for the AP poll.
Yeah, that was quite the leap, and deservedly so. It's been an incredible ride for Jerome Tang and the Wildcats. They have got the game at TCU on Saturday. That's going to be a tough one. But I wanted to start our Kansas State conversation, Kellis, about talking about Markquis Nowell, who amazes me every week. The guy is just playing his 5'8" butt off. That's what I got him listed. Is he 5'8" or?
I think that's maybe a little generous. I'd say 5'7", 5'7.5". He is taller than Deuce Vaughn, though. He got insulted last summer on the Catbackers tour when people came up and actually asked him for Deuce Vaughn's autograph. They thought he was Deuce, and he was like, "I'm way taller than that guy." But he plays big on the basketball court. His last 4 games in Big 12 play have been unbelievable. It seems like he gives you 30 points every night, 10 assists every night. And if you go by strictly conference numbers right now, conference only numbers in the Big 12, he leads the conference in scoring, in assists, and steals. And, I've had a lot of people ask what's, kind of the secret, what's Jerome Tang done so differently this season. It's not like he's, this, I'm not trying to say he's not a good coach, but he's the coach of a team that has the best guard in the conference right now, arguably one of the best in the country, the way he's playing. Then you add in Keontae Johnson, who's given them, automatic 15 points every single night. You should be winning when you have 2 of the best players in the entire conference on your team, and that's what they've got right now. And Markquis is the engine that's making them go. I mean, you saw him against Oklahoma State. That was a really tough game for them. The Cowboys came in and slowed the pace down, played defense. That's 2 things that Texas and Baylor did not do against Kansas State. It was a really difficult game. It was hard for him to score in the half-court sets. And Markquis just kind of came out and said, well, to heck with this. I'm just going to shoot Steph Curry threes. They went in. They win the game. He's been a big difference.
God, a logo 3 is the one that stood out to me. It had to be, if you put the tape measure down, 30 feet, 32 feet, it was incredible. But then he had the lob pass to Keontae Johnson at the end. That was just an incredible moment. Great play, maybe the play of the year so far. and it wasn't just in garbage time. It was a big bucket.
Mhm.
That
Yeah,
K-State
clinched the
needed.
game.
Yep. And so one of the things I noticed about Noel, fifth-year senior, by the way, spent his first 3 years at Arkansas Little Rock, was good there, right? And then, but this isn't the Noel we saw a year ago. Not to this extent. He was good. He had double-digit average last year, but also played. He had to sort of share the backcourt with Nigel Pack, and so it was a little bit different setup. This is his team this year, and he's taken full advantage. The one stat that I wanted to point out that I think is a big difference for him this year, he's 39% on 3-pointers. A year ago, he was 31%. And the reason I bring that up is obviously there's a great improvement there, but I always find it true that when transfers come up in classification, so he's going from Sun Belt to Big 12, that's he was a good shooter at Little Rock, but to me, that's one of those places where the defense is just a little better, the athletes, a little taller and faster, better. Your 3 points are guarded when you make that transition in a bigger way. I think he's finding space better, and I don't know. I don't want to say it's coming easier for him, but I just think a year in the Big 12 helped him, figure out what it was to basically get yourself open and to take on more uncontested shots.
Yeah, I agree, and I think somewhat like Michael Jordan, he took it a little personally last year when a lot of us in the media pointed out that he wasn't always playing within Kansas State's system. There are a lot of times where those Steph Curry shots weren't as wild as they seemed earlier this week. They looked much wilder last season. It was really just I'm gonna run down and shoot while I'm without even stopping. There are a few times he did that and just tried to do too much within the offense. This year, Jerome Tang's put down a system that suits him a little bit better. He's got him to play within it, and he's really trusting things. I mean, he still makes mistakes. You saw against Oklahoma State, he came down and tried a kind of ridiculous assist pass underneath his legs going backwards. It was picked off. It's like, come on, what are we doing that for? But when he does play within himself, he's a very good player. And I agree with you totally. It's a big jump from Arkansas Little Rock to Kansas State. Big jump from that conference to the Big 12. Sometimes it definitely takes players a year to get used to it. And I will say one more thing. I think I was asked this on my Q&A today. I never really thought about this, but I think them losing Nigel Pack actually was a net gain for Kansas State, because last year that was a real big question that the coaches had, was how do we play Pack and Marquise together? They're similar players. They're both shorter point guards. They both love to shoot rather than, always get their teammates involved. Remove one of those guys from the equation, and all of a sudden Marquise has just turned into this lion who's doing a lot more himself. So, Nigel's out there in Miami getting paid. Marquise is here not getting paid, but his numbers are way up. I think it worked out for both sides.
And I took that personally. I love that. All I need is a whiskey in my hand. 8.8 assists per game for Marquise Noel. That's second in college basketball. Leads the Big 12, and it's second to a player from SLU, by the way, in the NCAA. All right, so K-State at TCU. You've got the Wildcats going against a team that has the preseason Big 12 Player of the Year in Mike Miles. So is this with Kansas on Tuesday? Is there a little potential look ahead factor for the Wildcats, or I trust Jerome Tang to have these guys locked in, because it's just I trust Jerome Tang. But what do you think?
In any other season, I would say it's definitely a look ahead spot. It's by far the biggest game on the schedule. Kansas State, short of winning a Big 12 championship, any fan out here wants to beat Kansas in Bramlage, rush the court and everything. That's the dream of any season. So they're definitely looking forward to it. But if there's every year where that's not the case, it's this one. There's only two guys in the entire team who've even played against Kansas. That's Marquise and Ishmael Massoud, and they've only done it once in Bramlage. Everybody else in the team is completely brand new. Keontae Johnson doesn't know what it means to play Kansas. Desi Sills doesn't know what it means to play Kansas. Naquan Tomlin, I doubt he cares too much about that game yet. They're 4-0 in the conference. Jerome Tang is from Texas. He knows, what it means to play TCU. So I think they're going to be hungry going into this game. They've talked a whole lot about how they're proud that they've got that number 11 next to their name right now. They want to keep it. So I don't think they're going to look ahead here. I think in the past, even like some of those real veteran teams with Barry Brown and Dean Wade that won a lot of games, I think they would have been susceptible to look ahead here because they were veteran players who'd been around. They knew how much it would mean to beat Kansas. Maybe we focus more on that than just TCU. But this is a big game for Kansas State, and I don't necessarily think they will look ahead. And if they do, I don't know how much it'll hurt them.
Hey, this is Blair. There are several ways to access the Star Sports section. Let me tell you about a couple of them. There is Sports Pass. For $12.99 a month, you get unlimited digital access to all of the Star Sports content, including beat writing, columns, features, pretty much everything we write. The deal renews monthly until you tell us to cancel. For $159.99 a year, you get everything the Star has to offer digitally, including sports and the e-edition. Go to kansascity.com and drop down to the bottom of the page where it says Start a Subscription for more information. Your support has never been more important. As always, thanks for reading and listening. So KU is down by 10 with a little over 5 to go on Tuesday night against Oklahoma. You gave them the L at that point, didn't you?
I remember tweeting out at that timeout. I was like, I think they went 12 and a half minutes without scoring. And I was like, if they don't score the ball here, this one is over. And I honestly thought, I was like, I don't know what's happening, because you go 12 minutes without scoring a field goal. They were throwing up some garbage, a lot of like old school, post play where they just back it down. Everyone else would just stand and watch for the corners. And the offense just kind of looked lethargic. And they come out of that timeout and they have that DeJuan Harris, KJ Adams connection. And then they get a stop. And then KJ Adams gets an offensive rebound, gets the ball to DeJuan. DeJuan gets to Wilson. They hit a three. And within less than a minute, they're within 5. And that kind of just shows you, like a team like Kansas, how good they are, even when it seems like they're seemingly out, they're never really out. And ultimately they won that game because they really turned up the last 5 minutes. I think I was really impressed with, you can play pretty terrible basketball by Kansas standards for 35 minutes and come out with a W against a tough conference opponent, then that's a good sign for March and really, the rest of the season.
Yeah, Gary, Bill and the program, they've won a ton of games. So some of them are going to be comeback fashion. You're not going to, even for all the games Kansas wins, they're not going to, be up by 10 at halftime and then stretch it out in the second half all the time. But you've seen some pretty amazing comebacks over the years. I know I have too. I want to know where this one, I don't want to say I thought Kansas was going to win when they were down like as much as they were, but I knew not to turn the TV off. I watched the national championship game last year, and but there are other games, not just in Allen Fieldhouse. I'll get Kellis in a minute to remember last year's game at Bramlage, but this is kind of what Kansas does, isn't it?
Yes. In this game, quickly, when it was 10 points, it looked bad. But when they cut it to 5 in about 30 seconds and they were only down by 5 with 4 left, you knew it was a game. The weird thing is when Tanner Groves put up a 3, that would have been the dagger. It was down to like 3 points or so with whatever was left, maybe even under a minute. And I thought when he'd let go, if that goes in, that's finally the ball game. But some comebacks, they beat Missouri when they were down 19 in 2012. Poor Bob Huggins has had several of them. KU was down 14 with 2:58 left at home. Frank Mason, Devontae Graham team rallied to win in overtime. 14 points with 2:58 left. Come on. They trailed Oklahoma this time by 10. DeJuan Harris with 2 big free throws late in this game to ice it. Oklahoma still had a chance down the stretch. They were down 13 to Okie State with 18 minutes left. I mean, I'm sorry, Ohio State in the Final Four in 2012. That's a pretty big deficit, down 13. At home, down 18 to Florida. That's pretty tough. In 2014, Wayne Selden's team won it. Florida had to be staggering home after that one. And then again, West Virginia, 2018, KU's down 15 in the second half at West Virginia. So Bill Self, what can you say? 301-16 at home. Now that means if you're a Kansas fan the last 20 years and you have tickets, you are almost guaranteed to see a victory. And if you're one of the poor people that were in the 16, if those are the only games you ever went to, you're disappointed. But 301-16 is almost an automatic.
You should ask around and see if there's anyone who went to all 16 and none of the 301. That would be amazing.
I think I probably did. But
the only one. You and Bill.
I missed a couple, but I don't think I ever missed a loss.
16. How the hell did they lose 16? One of the West Virginia games that you referenced, Gary, the 2017 game when they were down 14, I think 2:58 to play. You've said that was Frank Mason and Devontae Graham. That was a game where Kansas set the Guinness World Book of Records for noise in an indoor arena. I looked that up. So that's part of the advantage that Kansas has, and if every one of those games, every one of those great comebacks, maybe except for the ones against Carolina, the one against Ohio State in the NCAA tournament, had some officials call that everybody went nuts about. Right, there was always something that how could you not call this? Someone had a great tweet this week, though. They showed 4 scenes, snapshots of Kansas winning or Kansas losing late in a game with an opponent shooting a 3-pointer. If that 3-pointer hits, Kansas loses. And in all of those occasions, just like Tanner Groves this past week, it didn't hit, and Kansas ends up surviving those games. So,
do I have the stat right that Oklahoma has never won an Allen Fieldhouse as a Big 12 team?
That's right. I covered, Gary, you probably remember this. It was 92, 93 season, and Oklahoma had a guard named Terry Evans. And that team, that was a Kelvin Sampson team that won at the Fieldhouse. 92, 93 was like 4 years before the Big 12 was formed. And that's the last time OU's won in Allen Fieldhouse. Great Oklahoma, the Buddy Hield game, people will never forget that. The 3 overtimes when Buddy scored 40, whatever it was, 46, and KU still survived that one. So, all right. But Iowa State comes in. Iowa State's a team that's won at Allen Fieldhouse, not historically, but they here and there, they found ways to get a W. And gosh, I can remember Ben Backlemore having to bank a 3 to send a game into overtime back about a decade or 12 years ago. But anyway, Shreyas, tell us a little bit about Iowa State and why these guys have been so good this year.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, they are a really interesting team. They play slow, they control the pace, and they will kill you with any mistake that you make. They force turnovers at a really, really high rate. They have one of the best defenses in the nation. I think they're number 1 in the nation in forcing turnovers. They average, I think, a really high percentage of, I think they're 8th in the nation in steals. So basically, I mean, like any mistake that you make, Iowa State will kill you on. And that's how they won basketball games this year, is that devastating defense. And it's led to offensive points for them. And they control the game. And KU is going to have, I think, its hands full against a team where if they make mistakes, it could get out of hand quickly, because, you know, Iowa State does a great job of making sure opponents don't come back in games because they hold the ball so long, like almost 18 seconds on average per possession.
Hey, TJ Otzelberger's done a heck of a job, just a great job. Of course, he was at Vegas. He was a longtime Iowa State assistant and great recruiter. That was his rep as a recruiter. Man, he can coach. That Sweet 16 run he made last year when I think it was Wisconsin and LSU they beat to get to the Sweet 16, and really impressive job that he's doing at Iowa State. So, Gary, I think every Kansas fan and certainly every Kansas State fan will tell you that that's the biggest rivalry, KU K-State that the Jayhawks play. But there's no love lost between KU and Iowa State, is there?
No, as we all know, Iowa State has those great fans that come to Kansas City every postseason for the tournament. And Bill Self's had a great record in Ames, but the place is always packed and it's always tough. And the one year they had the problem with that fan that yelled at Bill Self or whatever. I'm almost forgetting the story now. It's been a while. And then in Allen, like you said, they've grabbed a win here and there, Iowa State. Not many again, because like we said, KU never loses at home. But yeah, it's a pretty big rival. And thing is with KU fans would probably say, it's not a rivalry because KU's doubled in the all-time series. It's probably double that KU wins twice as much as it loses, but it's a team that because it's in the old Big 8 and all that, it's a neat game. And I don't think they've had any near fights or anything, so it'll be good if they could keep it clean still. But K-State would be the main rival. So many Kansans work together, at the water. There aren't water canoes probably as many anymore since COVID, but they work together, and there's a bragging thing, obviously. And in football, K-State's just totally smoked the last 20 years or
150 games. Yeah.
And in basketball, they had the fight in Lawrence, which was unfortunate, but you just like those games between the old Big 8 teams, and it's neat to see them all at the top of the standings.
For sure, but you're right. The old Big 8 guard, they're at the top. KU, K-State, and Iowa State. So, all right. I know I'm mentioning this to you for the first time, but I'm hoping that we can reconvene next Tuesday morning to talk KU, K-State. I think if the Wildcats win on Saturday at TCU, they're going to find a way to climb into the top 10. I know that UConn's already lost a third game this year, so I think they could drop out. And Kansas State at 11 almost got Gonzaga to lose last night to BYU, but it didn't happen. So I think Kansas State will find a way to sneak into the top 10, and we'll have a top 10 meeting next Tuesday between Kansas and Kansas State. The first one since, I believe this is right, the 2010 Big 12 championship game back when Frank Martin was the Kansas State coach. So, all right, guys, excellent conversation. Really enjoyed it. Kellis, Shreya, Gary, thank you guys, and we'll talk to you again maybe sooner than you think. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
That'll do it for today and this week on SportsBeat KC. Thanks to our producer, Randy Mason, for putting together today's show, and to our SportsBeat KC production staff of George Howard, Monty Davis, Jeff Rosen, and Scott Chasen. Tip of the cap to Shreya Salata, Gary Bedore, and Kellis Robinette for sharing their insights. The NFL playoffs start this weekend, and we got you covered here and everywhere else in sports in the Morning Sports Edition. Check out this digital sports page extravaganza at liveedition.kansascity.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon with another SportsBeat KC, where we talk sports in Kansas City every day.